All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to episode 1081, Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you to everyone out there, as always, for listening to the show, for watching, however you are consuming, taking in, Talking Buffalo. I appreciate you guys so very much. Also, a big shout out to today's sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road. Brand new outdoor patio. This weather is finally popping. It is a great time out there. I was there over the weekend. I'm going to be doing a live show there with Bulldog from WGR on Wednesday night, July 2nd. So if you're in that area, make sure you stop up. Also, Imperial Pizza, 2 locations, 1655 Main Street near Canisius College, and the South Buffalo staple, 1035 Abbott Road. The best lunch special anywhere in town. I'll also be doing a live show there this coming Sunday night. My guy, Joe from Queens, is going to be in town. So we're going to hook up live, and we will be at Imperial Sunday night at 8 p.m. Shout out again to our sponsors. All right, this is our Tuesday podcast. I'm joined right now for the first time, man. Good friend of mine. I've been on his show a couple times now. He's returning the favor to me. My buddy, Matt Diegert from Do Champions, man. What's going on, dude? How you doing?
Not too much, Pat. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I appreciate you doing the show. I especially appreciate it on relatively short notice. You've been traveling today. I know it's been a busy couple days for you guys, for you specifically. You guys over at Do Champions. We'll talk some Sabres and some Bills today. This is going to be, I want to say, potentially, let's use the word potentially, Matt, potentially a big week. Certainly an important week for the Buffalo Sabres. How it plays out remains to be seen. We'll talk about that as well. We'll get into some, I want to pick your brain a little bit on what you're looking forward to seeing with Bill's training camp coming up next month. We'll get into that in just a couple minutes. But, Matt, I'll tell you what, Sunday, the place to be was out in Hamburg at Soul Beach Club. Student body, your partner over at Do Champions, he hosted a bocce ball tournament, and it was a lot of fun. It was very hot. I'll tell you what, it was hot, wasn't it, dude?
That's a word for it. It touched 90 yesterday on the beach, so yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, for sure. And you guys, you got some stroke, dude, because I am a Saturday guy. You know this. Saturday is my day, man. Saturday is bang out the Busch Light apples and let's have a party kind of day. Sunday, usually you don't get me out on a Sunday, but I really wanted to be a part of that. Student reached out to me and asked me to come, and I was like, yeah, man, that would be really cool. And there were a lot of, first of all, there were a lot of people there. Secondly, very impressive list of a couple former players that were there. Harrison Phillips, he looks good too, by the way.
Harrison looks really good. Harrison always looks good. Yeah.
I took my daughter there. My first thought was, damn, I so wish he was a Buffalo Bill, especially right now, man. He would be a really good fit for this team right now. But Harrison Phillips was in the house there. Aaron Williams, who looks, he still looks like he could play, man. He hasn't played since 2016. I mean, it's been a while, but he still looks like he can get out there and play. Sal Capaccio was in the house. I talked to him for a little while. Unfortunately, I left like right before Jim Kelly showed up, man. That sucked for me. But anyway, that was cool for you guys. And I appreciate, especially your partner, man. Student body, right, dude? He made me feel like a star. Maybe he gave me the rock star type treatment. So there's how big this event was. A combination of just being a beautiful, gorgeous day, plus the event that was going on. What that led to, folks, is people who were trying to go to the beach and park in the big public parking lot were getting turned away. The cops had orange cones out. It was barricaded off. You could not get in.
I mean, you couldn't get in for a minute, so we literally had to come up and grab you because they literally wouldn't let you come in.
It was wild, man. So I was with my daughter. She was driving, and we couldn't get in. And I called student up, and fortunately he answered. I said, yo, I can't get in, dude. There's no parking. They're turning us away. Because what are you talking about? I said, well, literally, the lot is full. There's a cop out there, and they're turning us away. He says, circle back around. Come back 5 minutes. I did. he was out there and he talked to the cop and the cop let us in. So I was like, damn, dude, it kind of felt like getting the rock star treatment there a little bit. You guys did a live show there too.
Yeah.
Talk about, before we get into, because this is a podcast too, and everyone who listens to Talking Buffalo knows that I like to spend a little bit of time, especially when I got a podcast guest on, talking about actual podcasting. You guys have been doing a lot of live shows lately. And by the way, if you don't know this, people, Do Champions is a podcast. It's a really good podcast, and it is on the come up. And you've had a really, really impressive list of guests, especially recently. We'll get into that in just a second. But talk about the process of having to set up a live show, with multiple microphones, multiple cameras on a 90-plus degree day and at a location, Matt, that, again, was absolutely mobbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, it was actually easier than it was last year, and I will tell you that because last year was our first year of doing it, and we ran into all sorts of issues. I know you actually came over and helped us with the road for a second, because we were having a lot of choppiness issues.
Yeah.
So it was almost like too much processing. So you got to get the audio correct, and you got to get the video correct, and you got to do just about everything and make sure everything is almost perfect. But in a live scenario, perfect is the imperfect, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Because you're going to get the noise, you're going to get some of that, so it comes down to it. And it's one of the most rewarding things, but to get there is almost one of the most stressful things. But I'm glad it worked out yesterday. And just to kind of throw this out there real quickly, Do Champions is the media network. We actually do Third and Manageable on Saturday nights with myself and Student Body Right. And check out any of the other great shows on our network. So, but Pat, I want to thank you for having us on. I want to thank you for being there yesterday. I know, you and I talked for about 10 minutes with Student piping in every once in a while, but
he was all over the place, man. He was an animal, man. He was an animal. It was It was kind of fun watching him. I was having my own little personal entertainment, just watching him flying around, trying to take care of a million different things at once.
That's kind of like the perfect spot for him, though, because like it kind of gets his, it kind of shows like his ADHD or whatever you want to call it, kind of just being able to kind of be all over the place. I couldn't do it. I'm glad I could take care of the podcast stuff and the live stuff and everything like that, and at least handle that side of it for him. But I mean, we had a great time yesterday. It was hot. It touched, like I said, 90 degrees, and luckily we had a tent. Because if we didn't have that tent, we probably would have been maybe on for 20 minutes and then been we're out.
Funny you should mention that, Matt, because I'll tell this quick story here involving the live show that you guys did on Sunday, which again, Jim Kelly was on there. I want to get to that in a second. So I mean, that's just such kick ass. But anyway, you're right. You did have a tent for you and for Student and for other people. But if you were the way it was, and there's nothing you could do because you got, only so much room that you could put so many things. You got to spread things out. Otherwise, it's just not going to work schematically. But where I was, because I did about a 10-minute or so guest spot on your show, but that was outside the tent. So you have a microphone that you hold and you have headphones, and you got to have headphones, especially, if it's you and I in a studio or somewhere, like maybe even Ilios or somewhere, you guys do a lot of shows there. You could get away probably with not having to have headphones on because it's not so loud. But This was a packed-ass house at a beach bar. Shout out DJ Jixer, by the way. Banging out some really good tunes. It was loud. It was fun. Headphones were a necessity. So you got headphones on in the sun baking down on you, which adds about 10 to 15 degrees of heat. And I watched it back. Holy shit, man. I was literally about 4 minutes in, dripping with sweat. Student threw a bandana for me, which I caught, and I was wiping my face.
Yeah.
That was hot. I was baking in the sun. But you know what to say, man. All's fair in love and podcasting. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
To kind of go along with that, like we had a little bit of an issue with the road too. Our road cable actually died, so I had to run to Best Buy. And
really?
Yeah, and that's why we were supposed to go on at noon and didn't go on until about 1:30. But I had to go to Best Buy, and that I had to make two separate trips. So just to because that kind of goes along with how it goes for a live show. You want to make sure you have everything, but when something dies like that, you kind of got to think on your feet. And we had to shoot up to Best Buy, and unfortunately, they gave me the wrong charger the first time. And then so I had to go back. Yeah, so I had to go back, and I took the Rode with me that time to make sure that it actually worked. And I was like, "You guys sold me the wrong one this time. This time we're gonna plug it in, and you guys are gonna make sure we get the right one." So they did. They were very accommodating. But yeah, I mean, Pat, it's just you saw it. I mean, it was a madhouse, and just to be able to have, the ability to do that yesterday, to help Harrison's playmakers, to help. We had somebody that on there, Blake, who's a part of Harrison's playmakers, who's somebody who struggles with not, I don't want to call it struggles. I don't know how to put that, but somebody who's afflicted with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And we had him on, and he gave us, his thoughts about, how much it means to him to be on, or to be a part of Harrison's playmakers. And it was that's what it was about yesterday. It's not about you and me and the sponsors and trying to, it was about charity yesterday, and it was about philanthropy yesterday. So, I mean, it was just a lot of fun yesterday, and I don't have anything more on that. And
no, it was a lot of fun. And to your point, all the other stuff, like I said, how hot it is outside, the equipment issues, doing a live setup, and then the pitfalls that come with them, none of that shit really matters. At the end of the day, like you said, it was about charity. It was a great event. Harrison Phillips' foundation, money was raised. Everyone that I ran into and talked to, and I ran into a lot of people that I knew there, all had a really good time. Like I said, I was, especially after doing that spot, I was hot. I was overheated. I could only last so long. Dude, I'm old, man. I can't be out in the sun at a beach bar for more than 2 hours. That's my max. So anyway, I tapped out at that point. My daughter, who had a great time too, by the way, we left, and I missed Jim Kelly. So you got to interview Jim Kelly. Before we get into, like I said, Sabres and Bills here, how'd that interview go? It was, I did listen to most of it, you know what I mean? And I'm not on my show, but I've had opportunities to talk to Jim, and know how Jim is. Not, he's to the point with what he wants to say and what he's got to say. But anyway, first of all, a great get, man. You're going to get a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. Props to you guys. That shit is awesome. But what did you guys talk about during the time you had with Jim?
Well, first and foremost, shout out to Dennis DePaulo for pulling him over there and basically sitting him down, and helping us get that. But as far as Jim goes, it was a great interview. Definitely watch it. It's on our Twitter and everything. It's on our YouTube. So definitely check that out. But it also comes down to its time constraints as well. So, he's very, like you said, to the point. Yeah. So you don't want to take up, and also because of who he is, you don't want to take up too much of his time, at an event like that. Like, yes, if we were having an actual sit down interview and things like that, going into politics, then you might get more questions out of him. But to sit there and to, on Friday night, we did a recording with Woody Ribick. And I will tell you, one of my childhood dreams was to put on like an AFC championship ring, or, I got to put on all four of his. That was probably check that off the bucket list. That was probably the most fun thing. But then to be able to sit there in all of just being able to talk to Jim Kelly, and that's the thing. I've talked to him before. Like, he knows my name, saying bye and things like that. But it comes down, and you're just like, oh, that's really cool. But to be able to sit across from him and have a conversation, that's probably one of the coolest things.
Kind of listen, man, at the end of the day, you're a content creator too, and we do this. We have people on. You've gotten used, I'm sure, at this point, and it's been a process for you guys, I'm sure, but you've gotten used to having people with recognizable names. You just have Ruben Brown on the show, the day before the event, and I saw that as well. A lot of names, and you get used to it at some point, but there's always, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for you as well, there's pinch me moments. Like, in a moment, even if it's, whether it's for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it may be, you may find yourself saying, you know what, I am a Bills fan. I did grow up a Bills fan. Well, at least that's the case with me. And I'm like, man, I'm sitting here, and in your case, the other day, I'm having a conversation with, one of the most recognizable players in the history of the Buffalo Bills, man, QB1. You know what I mean? Again, a first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy who, when he played here, is was larger than life. And he was larger than life in Buffalo, and he still remains a larger than life type figure. You ever get those kind of moments? It's like, you gotta, you want to do well. You want the show to go well. You're worried about all the production aspects and all that stuff. And then, you ask the right questions and hopefully you engage in a good conversation. But you ever find those moments where you're like, man, this is really freaking cool,
Yeah. No, I mean, I had one of those moments on Friday night. And unfortunately, when you're doing it live or recording it live, not a live stream, but like kind of like a recording, and we didn't edit it. We just literally took it and put it right up on YouTube, Twitter, all that, and sitting there. And after it, I just had to sit down and be like, holy cow, like that just happened. And then it was it was almost the same thing with Jim Kelly on because he truly is. He's QB1 until Josh Allen makes that Super Bowl. Until he gets there, Jim Kelly, in my eyes, is always going to be QB1. It's almost like that Jordan LeBron debate where Jordan's 6-0, and LeBron's never gonna touch that record. So if Josh never makes it, knock on wood that he does, and we as Bills fans want to sit here and say, he is going to 100% win one in his career. But we got to remember, Dan Marino never won one. He only went to one.
Went to one second year too.
Right.
That was it.
Never got back, and we can't sit here and say 100% Josh is going to make it, but in my gut, I think he is, and I think by the time his career is over, he will be QB1. But until that point, yesterday was a very pinch me, type of moment.
As it should be, and I'll tell you what, my most fascinating thing about Jim Kelly, this iteration of Jim Kelly, this era of Jim Kelly, I would say this, and I look forward to hopefully, I have things in the works to someday sit down with him in a setting and have a full interview. But I'll tell you what, to me, is the most fascinating thing about him, and it's this. Jim Kelly, there's one person on this earth right now, literally, who could, when you talk about Josh Allen and what he's doing on the football field and how large he's become, and how big of a part of the community he's become, where you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to Wegmans, you can't go to Bar Bill, without people just staring at you every single place you go. The burden on your shoulders of winning, trying to win a Super Bowl. There's lots of people who can understand it to an extent. There's one person on the face of this earth who can relate directly to what it is like to be QB1 at that level for the Buffalo Bills, a larger-than-life guy, and it's Jim Kelly. He's the only person in the history of this organization that can look at Josh Allen and say, I've been there. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have that responsibility. I know what it's like to have that level of popularity. I know what it's like to have that stigma or that stature, and I'm larger than life literally every single where I go. You know what I'm saying? That's what Jim has that nobody else does.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. But I also, want to bring up one other name on a lesser extent. I think Fitzpatrick, you got to put up there as far as being, and not because of how good he was on the field, but I think that, because of the beard, because of Bills Mafia becoming a big thing at that time. And I think that, and now with him being on Thursday Night Football and, him doing all this stuff, I think he is like right there, not necessarily in the skills talk, or what's on the field talk, but as far as if Josh Allen needed something, I'm sure he could reach out to Fitz as well and kind of understand that.
Sure.
As well.
On a popularity and personality level, absolutely, I would agree with you. On a pressure to win and bring a Super Bowl, the Bills never really were a contender when Fitzy was here. And trust me, dude, I love me some Ryan Fitzpatrick, man. One of my favorite players. Crazy son of a bitch, man. He had some Jim Kelly in him. He was going to throw a ball into triple coverage because he believed he can make every single throw every single time. It's a good example to use. Last question, and then we'll roll into some Buffalo sports talk here. But doing these live shows, and I'm just, again, podcast guy, live shows, just the guests that you've had on, and again, a very impressive guest list that you guys have been compiling over there. How long did it take you to get a little more comfortable. I don't know if you're fully even comfortable yet, but it sure seems that way. But getting comfortable with having a big name guest, because I'll tell you, man, when I first started getting a lot of notable guests on, I was nervous as shit, man, and I would have. Like I had Adam Schefter on once, and this was before video, okay? This was just audio, but I knew I was going to have a 60-minute sit-down interview with Adam Schefter, and I was pacing like crazy. Probably the most nervous I've been since my wedding, which was 20-something years ago. You know what I'm saying? But you get used to it. You get more confidence. You gain comfortability with yourself, but do you still get, like, you guys do a lot of shows at Ilios, for an example, you still get some of those nerves sometimes a little bit. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like the biggest name guest. It could just be somebody, this dude's going to be a really great guest. He's going to be, a great interview. And you got to bring it. You got to be at your best as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I get nervous on any guests that we have on. I get nervous for any show because I want to, I want to make sure that everything's going right. I want to make sure that the audio is working, the video is working, the guest can hear us. It's coming out to be a great interview. And to kind of go to your question a little bit, if you go back on my old podcast, the Buffalo Basement.
I lost you quickly here. No, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You're good. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
If you go back to my original podcast, the Buffalo Basement, we had Eric Wood on, and he was like the biggest guest that we had on there. And you can kind of see that even though I was trying to portray confidence, there was that nervousness there. And I'll be honest, that's probably the last time I've really felt that nervousness for an actual guest.
Yeah. It's funny you say Eric. I've had Eric on. We've had wings. I like to consider Eric actually a good friend at this point. We've hung out and had wings, even if it's not podcast related. And Eric is a super chill, nice guy, but he also has an aura and a presence to him that could kind of make you, especially again, if you're not used to it or you're in the process of getting used to it, he could certainly make you nervous. But yeah, man, Eric Wood is definitely one of the more popular former Buffalo Bills, who's still very, very, I mean, he's got his own podcast, of course, but he's just also very involved here with the community, the charities, and yeah, just a really good interview. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break, come back on the other side. Podcasting talk's been fun. Sabres talk may not be as much fun, but we got to get there because this is going to be potentially, like I said, a very big week for the Sabres. Much more coming up with Matt right after this quick break. All right, I am back here with Matt Diegert from Do All Do Champions, is the media company. Like you said, they're the manageable, the podcast. I always get the companies and the pod, Rob. Well, make sure you guys check it out. Of course, I'll have a link to all that stuff too in my show notes. If you're watching us on the video side, by the way, we talked about this over the last week or so. People have been asking me for months about getting some Talking Buffalo gear. It is available now. We have actually a site. We're collaborating with Buff on Wax. If you want to go to talkingbuffalo.buffonwax.com, we got hoodies, crew necks, t-shirts, couple different styles, couple different colors. So make sure you go and check that out. All right, Matt, this is draft week for hockey. The Stanley Cup just came to an end last week. What are we thinking right now with the Sabres? Let's start here because this feels like a goddamn double-edged sword to me. On one hand, dude, Kevyn Adams knows it's now or never for him. Like, time's up. And it's not even about getting fired anymore. We talked about this a little bit on your show the other day. It's not even about him getting fired. This is the last year of his contract. It ain't going to get renewed. It ain't going to cost Harry no money to not bring him back after this year. So he knows shit's got to get done. But if you're Kevyn Adams, how do you convince an unrestricted free agent to actually want to come here? Or how do you convince somebody, like I said, with a no-trade clause to waive it to come to Buffalo? It feels like such a big dilemma right now for Kevyn, doesn't it?
It does. And I truly think that as far as on the free agency side of things, that starts July 1st. I truly think that he's not gonna be able to be in on the big fish. He's not gonna be able to be in on the Mitch Marners, whatever. It's gonna be your lower fill-in guys. And to be honest with you, give him a little bit of credit because he's always done the little things that, you know, help with building a roster. He's just not done the stuff on the top side of it to get those guys in here like a Pedersen or like a Jason Robertson or like a Mitch Marner. He's not getting those guys in here to help with that top six with the top six forward with the Tage Thompson, the
Yeah.
Alex Tucks, and everything like that.
It's frustrating. This isn't about free agency, but a sidebar here, a side point. How frustrating is it to see two players on this team in Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin that have been everything that you could hope they could be? Like Rasmus Dahlin, first overall pick, they don't always work out. Rasmus Dahlin has worked out. He has been sensational. I think you can make a very reasonable case that if Rasmus Dahlin played for Dallas or Colorado, he might have a Norris Trophy in his living room right now. That's how good I think he's been. Tage Thompson proved, that 1 year where he scored a bunch of goals that it wasn't a fluke, man. This guy is a great player. How do you feel for them? They're rich, whatever. But do you feel for them on a personal level that these guys are deserving and worthy of being on contenders and they're special guys, special players, and it feels like their skills and their careers to some extent are, on the verge of kind of rotting away here in Buffalo? Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel for them in a way. You take the money side out of it, and on a a personal humanizing level, I do feel for them because Rasmus Dahlin's been here since 2018. Just saw somebody share a picture of the tweet from Josh Allen when they both got drafted in the same year. Wings on Josh. So I wonder if that ever happened. But that aside, Rasmus has been kind of a model player, model citizen, model whatever you want to call it. And even when somebody like Paul Bissonnette wanted to come out and try and blow something up, he's like, no, like where'd that come from? Like why? So that's Rasmus Dahlin, but also on Tage Thompson. I think it's more on like the guys like Tage and even Alex Tuck and even a little bit Peyton Krebs. I think that's got to be wearing on them because Tage was a big part of the deal for Ryan O'Reilly, and then Alex Tuck and Peyton Krebs were the big parts of the Jack Eichel trade. So.
Yeah.
You see Jack Eichel and Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly will go win Stanley Cup and Conn Smythe the year he leaves the Sabres. So, I mean, I feel for these guys because as a content creator, I look at it and am like, okay, what are these guys doing? But as a Sabres fan, taking that, it's like, it's 14 years, but these guys have only been here for 3, 4, 5 years, and it's like that you can't get away with it, or you can't get away from it.
Rasmus Dahlin denied, the anger that was publicly reported last year, and I believe him. I'm not saying he's lying. I do think there is a sense of frustration with him, though, and maybe he didn't get to that level, and maybe he didn't say what was reported. But do you get a sense that it's close? It's coming. Like, let's say we get to February this year, and what's he going in? I don't even know. I've lost track of how many years he's been in the league now. But, another year, and let's just say it's around Valentine's Day. You're freezing your balls off in Buffalo. Like, that's what happens here in Western New York. And you're buried near the bottom, maybe even at the bottom of the conference. Are you concerned that it gets to a point where Rasmus says, you know what, man, I want out. I don't want to be here no more.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I kind of equated a little bit to the Jack Eichel thing. Like, I don't care. You decided to sign the deal. You decided to sign for 8 years. You're here. If as long as your play on the ice is not suffering, then you're gonna just suck it up and until we can find something that works. Because and I wish they would have done the same thing minus the whole neck thing with Jack Eichel. Is I think that's where it would have gone with him. But as far as Rasmus Dahlin, I don't worry as much on him because he's not had that major injury. He's not had anything like that. So they kind of hold all the cards on him. But I do worry for the locker room side of it, is maybe destroying a locker room, maybe, something like that. And I'm not saying it gets to that point, but I think, I worry for that side of it.
I'll say this about Rasmus and what the difference with him and I believe Jack was. Both are frustrated by the losing. Jack Eichel was very frustrated. I mean, sick of losing. And I understand that. He is a superstar player, and the dude was just sick of losing. I would also say that there was a part of Jack Eichel that just wasn't happy being a Buffalo Sabre. I'm not sure how the organization, other players, his relationship with a lot of other guys on the team, with management, things like that. We all know about, the surgery and the beef that came of that. He wanted out. I do think Rasmus Dahlin desperately wants to be a Buffalo Sabre. He just is sick of losing. Like, if he were to ask out, like with Jack, I was like, whatever. With Rasmus, I would be Team Rasmus if it came down to it, because I'm just saying the dude wants to be here. I truly believe that he genuinely wants to be a Buffalo Sabre. I just think that the losing is really starting to wear thin on him, and I believe the same when it comes to Tage Thompson as well. And furthermore, a guy I probably should have mentioned along these guys of, like, why is this team not good? Because you look at Alex Tuch. Alex Tuch scores 33 goals this year. Alex Tuch at 29 years old, I thought he was sensational, man. And, to Kevin Adams' credit, as much as we shit on him, and I certainly do plenty myself, I know that, and I don't run from it, but you look at that trade, all things considered, when you got Tuch back, you still got Oslin to see how he turns out. Krebs has been okay. Wasn't an awful trade. I mean, considering that you had to trade Jack, and you were limited in your leverage because of that, pretty good return. Kevin Adams has done some good things. The McLeod trade was a good trade last year. The Jason Zucker signing was a good free agent signing. You add all this up, Matt, and it's like, well, why is this team not better, man?
I don't have that answer.
No one does.
The only thing I can come up with, and I'll be honest with you, is just from watching it and knowing hockey. I've been on the ice since I've been 3 years old, to be honest with you. But is the goaltending. The goaltending, the way that whether it's the goaltending coach, the way that they have him, working, or whether it's whether it's his confidence or anything like that. But UPL is not the answer anymore. And at this point, for 3 months, he has showed that he can do it. The rest of his career has been what he's been. So at this point, we got to sit here and say, that's who he is. So either you're going to have to go get Aaron Ekblad, you're going to have to go get a partner for Rasmus Dahlin. You're going to have to, go, hope that JBD and Connor Clifton play well together so that they can play on the defensive side. But until you fit, unless you go spend a lot of money on the defense, he's not going to be anything. And for me to hear Kevin Adams in his end of year press conference have as much confidence in UPL as he does, it blows my mind.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. In fact, I've asked people. I'm more of a football guy. I'm a hockey guy too, but not on the same level as football. I'm more of a frustrated, disgruntled fan. I talk about the team, and I rely on having a lot of good hockey guests who come on and provide the insight. I am not Mr. Insight Provider when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres. I'll be the first to admit that. But I do know that the goaltending's not been good enough. And the problem with this offseason is everyone I've talked to, Chris Austrian or Chad DiDominis, some others, Mike Harrington, the goaltending pool's just not good out there. Like Jonathan Allen's like a one free agent, I believe, out there, or Jake Allen, whoever, something Allen. He's a good quality free agent. After that, not a lot. And even in the trade market, it doesn't seem to be a lot when it comes to goaltending, which kind of leads to, well, Devin Levi, hopefully Levi could be the guy.
Well,
but
Pat, real quick, not to interrupt you, but I do want to let you know that I think I saw he went to the Flyers today, Jake Allen, for they traded for his rights to be able to.
There you go. So
along with Trevor Zegras today, so they're getting better as well.
Oh, I know Zegras got traded. I didn't know Allen was part of it, though. Well, man.
Not part of it, but that was a separate trade. But about an hour later, they traded for his rights to be able to negotiate with him. So he may not make free agency.
He wasn't coming to Buffalo anyway. So I was saying, but the problem is the goaltending. It's like you're almost handcuffed, and you just have to hope that I think that Levi's going to be answered. Because I'm with you on UPL. I think UPL is what he is, streaky. Also, it doesn't have the perfect career when it comes to staying healthy too. So, that's an issue. But with Levi, it was like, all right, well, first of all, he's in Rochester. So you can only put so much stock into what a player does in the AHL. But he looked good. But Then in that playoff series that they lost, from what I hear, because I'm not going to sit there and act like I watch all the games, not so much. So I don't know, dude. I don't know. But what I do know is this is a hockey team, like I said, that has to find a way to improve. Just it's simple as that. They need 2 defensemen. They need probably a top 6 forward, especially if JJ Peterka gets traded. If he doesn't, yeah, and plus they're relying on Norris to be healthy, which hasn't worked out. That's a head-scratching type trade that I know a lot of people are still kind of puzzled about. I guess what I want to ask you, I kind of did earlier, I'll bring this back around, is you're right about the Mitch Marners. Stop thinking about those guys, man. Shit ain't happening. You know, Marchand, if he even hits free agency, those dudes ain't coming to Buffalo. Why would you come? Let me ask you this, man. If you're a free agent and you're a quality free agent and you're not long in the tooth, like, say, Jason Zucker, who turned out to be a great signing. I want to be clear about that. But you're a guy who could go get 4 or 5 years, a good contract, and you're going to have interest around the league. Maybe you might listen to the Sabres to see if they could kind of catapult an offer to get you more money somewhere else. But right now, why are you coming to Buffalo? This is the dilemma that Kevin Adams has. You're Matt Diegert, you're a quality free agent. Why do you want to be a Buffalo Sabre?
And you just said it is because they're going to pay more money than the other teams. And that's unfortunately what it comes down to, is because the Sabres aren't winning. It comes down to money. And I think Jason Zucker, had he gotten any offers from any other contending team or anything more, and yes, he might like the Sabres, he might, but if you have a chance as a 35-year-old Jason Zucker, he gets an offer from Dallas or Colorado or Florida or anything like that, he's going to go there for less money. So, for us to be able to, hold on to him, great. I'm happy about that. But there is no reason that any team or any player should be coming to Buffalo unless they have to.
Well, you just said it. You have to overpay to get a guy. Here's the problem. Are you talking a mid-30s, 1-year guy, maybe a 2-year contract at the most? Okay, they'll swing that. They've shown it. They've done it. But you look at the history of the free agent. Now, I'm not saying Terry Pegula has never spent any money. He has spent a pretty buck on his own guys, own core, locking guys up long-term. A couple of them look like great deals right now. Like Tage Thompson actually looks like a bargain, to be honest with you, with what he's doing. Other ones like Dylan Cousin, obviously that didn't work out. Samuelson being signed for as long as he is, that's a disaster that I think the Sabres are actively trying to get out of if they can right now. So it's been a mixed bag. But one thing that's been consistent is the Sabres ain't spending money on free agents. I don't think I've seen a contract. I think I saw something where there hasn't been a contract more than $10 million went to any unrestricted free agent in quite a while. So do you think, and we're speculating, of course, but if that's what it's going to take, you're going to get a guy who's 27, 28 years old who can get you 25 goals, be a top 6, maybe a top 9 guy, 4-year contract, whatever, is Terry Pegula willing to open up and spend a lot of money on a unrestricted free agent? What do you think he would at this point?
I think it depends. Honestly, I think it really depends on what Kevin Adams brings to him, because we saw him spend the money on Taylor Hall. He was the best player in free agency that year. They gave him 1 year's $8 million, and so fine. Like, I get that. So but if I hear that the Sabres go out and offer Mitch Marner $14 million and he goes to Vegas for 7 or 8, it's just going to, again, be kind of like that palm tree and tax talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you couldn't get the big fish. You couldn't get the call in Josh Allen, do whatever you have to do. Like, at this point, like, you're offering $14 million and somebody doesn't want to come play with you or play for you. Like, what are we doing? Like, so I think that and I want to get your opinion on this, because I was actually, thinking about this and probably going to talk a little bit more about it on Saturday morning when Brian and I do our hockey hotline. So if the Sabres wanted a top line 1C center, top line player, a guy that can drive the play and things like that, and it's a guy that for July 1st is going to have a no movement kick in. I think you know who I'm talking about, but Pettersson.
Yeah.
It came out today that from Elliot Friedman that they are not going to trade Pettersson unless they get a quality center back.
Mm-hmm.
They were the other team involved with Ottawa for Josh Norris. Would you take a 25-year-old Elias Pettersson and trade him for like a Josh Norris and other pieces because of basically it comes down to, would you rather have the injury concern with Josh Norris, or would you rather have the concern of Elias Pettersson not going back to his original form, his 100-point form?
I would make that trade in a second if I were the Sabres. I'm
So
telling you right now. It's Josh Norris to me is a younger Joey Bosa, if that makes any sense to you.
Mhm.
Joey Bosa's 29 years old. You get to a point where I don't trust somebody to stay healthy. And look, I don't know. And I also think the Sabres stunk last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just felt like it wasn't even worth risking Norris to come back and maybe get hurt worse. But you trade for a guy, you give up Dylan Cousins. Dylan Cousins was the subject of trade rumors forever, and you finally deal him, and the main piece you get back is a guy with an injury history, talent but an injury history, who gets hurt 3 games into his Sabres career and doesn't play again for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, JBD, Jacob Bernard Docker, may end up being the best piece in that deal, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because you could have gotten a heck of a lot more for Dylan Cousins.
If to answer your question, another reason why yes is because anybody who's got a no trade is not coming to the Buffalo Sabres right now. That's just what it is. I'll read you a tweet that I put out earlier on Tuesday. I said it half sarcastically, but I also mean it. I said, here's the simple 2-step process regarding players on the trade block potentially getting dealt to the Sabres. Number 1, see if the player has any form of a no trade clause. Number 2, if player has only any no trade clause protection, immediately scratch him off the list for the Sabres because he ain't waiving it. That's how I feel right now. And the magic formula is this. How do you get there? I don't know. But you got to catch lightning in a bottle. That's how the Sabres are going to get good. You're not going to get a stud 1C center. I don't think, and prove me wrong, I hope they do, but I don't think you're going to get one via a trade because I don't think anyone's going to want to come here. Maybe using Pettersson as one guy or other people, maybe they might say, you know what, I will never sign an extension here. I'm going to make this difficult. You're not going to want me in your organization. There's little things that they could say to kind of prevent it, even if they happen to have a no trade clause at that time. For the Sabres to return to the point where guys do want to come, well, first of all, it's going to take Terry Bagula spending the money, which, again, the Sabres have had, $6 million of cap space left, 5 straight
$30 million for the last 5 years.
Unbelievable for a team that can't win. That's just unbelievable to me. But what's got to happen is, like a couple years ago where they almost made the playoffs, they just missed out. You get good goaltending, whether it's UPL, whether it's Levi, whether it's both, whether it's somebody you low-key trade for, sign, who, again, catching lightning in a bottle. You get good health. Tage and Darlene and Tuck in your core stay healthy. Guys take that next step, some players. Like McLeod's been good. He can even be better. Maybe Jack Quinn, if he stays in Buffalo, he takes that next step. But Turka, if he's here, takes that next step. There's guys, you know what I mean? Like those guys taking that next step. And you make the playoffs. You start winning. If you start winning, all of a sudden Buffalo becomes a bigger destination. That's what happened with the Buffalo Bills. Now the Bills have, the larger-than-life superstar now in Josh Allen, but it's the winning. It was the winning that made people interested in coming to Buffalo, a new culture. That's what attracts free agents to want to come here or guys to want to get traded to the Sabres. It's winning. That's it. Nothing else. But how do you win? How do you get there? That's the problem when you can't get guys to want to come here right now. And they don't lack. I feel like if the Sabres want to make a trade, and I know they do, they don't lack the ammunition, do they? Because, you got Byram, you got Peterka, you got the 9th pick of the draft on Friday, you got maybe Oslin or even Hellenius if you wanted to dangle a prospect. There's ammunition, right?
There's only 4 guys that are either in the don't even think about it unless you're getting a McDavid. So there's only 2 guys that I consider that way. And then there's 2 guys that are very, very close. Yes, if you're not listening to the offers, you're doing malpractice as an NHL GM. But if you trade them for a bag of pucks, then you should be fired almost immediately. So it's kind of like that double-edged sword. Those players are Dahlin,
Yeah.
Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, or Tage Thompson, and Alex Tuck.
You would you would have Alex Tuck there.
I would, because I think that you get him slotted in that second line, helping to open up space. I think he's going to end up being that 35 to 40 goal scorer consistently, and I think that they need to get him on a 5-year deal. And I think he's probably going to be right between that, like 7, 5, and $8 million, right around there is where I think he's gonna slot for 5 years. But also too, I want to kind of go back to your point real quickly. I know I'm the eternal optimist when it comes to the Sabres and everything like that, but I truly do I truly do believe this wholeheartedly, that they would have ended the drought last year had they held on to Jeff Skinner. And the reason why I say that, and it might be a hot take and things like that, but
that's a sizzly take, dude.
he had 30 goals the year before.
Mm-hmm.
You did not do a single thing to replace that scoring on the top line. So not only it's kind of like playing pickup basketball against a bunch of kids, right? You're like, oh, we'll give you guys 10 points. So you're already behind the behind the 8 ball on that. But now you have to make up that goal scoring, and you don't do anything, and you don't use that money to do anything. So you're sitting there with his $7.5 million, and you give it to Jason Zucker and Jordan Greenway as an extension. What are we doing here? Like, and yes, I could be wrong. I have many takes where I'm wrong, but I think that if his name is not Jeff Skinner, and he's not, he maybe plays a little bit more defense, maybe see what he does in Lindy's system before you just outright cut him. Because now this year, if you held on to him last year and it didn't work out, you're saving $4 million this year, and the $6 million is coming next year.
Yeah. Look, first and foremost, trust me, if anyone can respect hot sizzly takes, it's me. I promise you that much right now. I will say this. I would say that the combination of not having Skinner and especially not spending his money, I would definitely put him in the top 3 as a reason why. Maybe playoffs, maybe not playoffs, but at the very least, I think we could agree on the last 3-4 weeks of the season, they're playing meaningful hockey. I think we could at least definitely arrive to that for sure. Yeah, listen, and I kind of tie one in the number 1. So I would say that would be like in my top 3. I think the goaltending being crappy for a lot of the season. I mean, Reimer should not be your best goalie, and he was for the second half of the season, and that's just unacceptable to me. UPL was not good enough, just straight up. That's a big reason. But to me, the biggest one is they fell off too early. They didn't know how, and which is surprising and disappointing to have a veteran coach like Lindy Ruff. The wheels fell off, and they did not know how to stop it until that losing streak, or the winless streak, I should say, got to 13 games. That put them behind the 8 ball to a point that they just were not going to be able to climb out of. And to your point, if you have Skinner, or if you adequately replace that money and you get someone else who could stop the bleeding by, scoring a couple key goals or whatever, you don't get to that 13-game winless streak. So,
right, go get Patrick Laine. Go sign one of these guys off of waivers. I think that Kevin Adams should have been fired after that 13-game losing streak. I think it should have been during the 13-game losing streak, after seeing these guys that were on waivers and him not do anything. Didn't even take a swing. That's the part that bothers me, is he didn't even take a swing.
Will you be disappointed on Friday night, Sabres, the 9th overall pick, make the selection? Will that disappoint you?
It depends on who the pick is. I think that if you have somebody like a Brady Martin, a Porter Martone, I'm trying to remember the defenseman, Merca.
The big boy.
Yeah. If you don't have one of those guys fall to you, and you just randomly take somebody that is, like Hellenius last year. What are we doing? Like, we gotta have you gotta have some sort of urgency. But I personally, and this is only gut feeling, what I think is going to happen, and I think you might see a little bit of like the NFL type thing here, where the Sabres may wait till they're on the clock to pull a trigger on a deal, because if their guy falls to them that they think that, because both Brian, my partner on Hockey Hotline, both of us think that Porter Martone is going to end up being that Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk kind of like in between type of player. Some people don't feel that way. They think his toughness isn't as much as it's there. But I think he's more Matthew Tkachuk than he is Brady Tkachuk. But he has skill. He has all that stuff. So if their player isn't there, I could see them moving that pick in combination to try. But if at the end of the night they don't get one of those guys or trade the pick, I would be disappointed.
One thing I think we can agree on, and I think is a consensus, because it's just glaringly obvious at this point, any move that Kevyn Adams makes, it needs to be something that he feels is going to make this team better in 2025, 2026.
Urgency.
Who gives a shit about a prospect that could help this team 2-3 years from now? Because Kevyn Adams is a smart enough man to know that he's not going to be the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres in 2 to 3 years if this team doesn't dramatically improve, make the playoffs. I don't know if there's a playoff mandate, but it sure as hell is not going to be, cellar dweller or near the bottom. So he knows any move they make, it's got to be with the present. That in mind, a week from now, this is Tuesday, so we're getting 8 days from now, free agency starts. Bo Byram, JJ Peterka. Do you expect one or both of them to still be Buffalo Sabres once we get to July 1st and unrestricted free agency starts?
Bo and Byram, no. I fully expect him to be dealt during the draft. JJ Peterka, I think it's less likely. Could I see it happen? Yes, I could see JJ Peterka being on the move. But do I expect it? No, I do not expect it, because the Sabres do not want to trade him. They want to get him signed long term. They want him to be part of it. But they could get blown away by something that happens at the draft and have the ability to move on from JJ Peterka.
He could be a part of, you talked about Pettersson earlier. That could be like that kind of key piece in a deal like that. The rumblings, and I'm not even just talking about Twitter. I'm talking about like actual, from what I understand, legit rumblings is JJ Peterka is, even though he's only been here for 3 years, and look, he does not have the cards right now. Like the Sabres could stop him from going anywhere for a number of years right now at this point. But dude ain't happy, man. He's not happy. And I don't know, again, because it's a fine line, because I think if you go with Kevyn Adams's "we want players who want to be here" thing, I don't know if they'd have enough guys to field the team right now. You know what I mean? Right. To put enough skaters on this ice. So, look, winning cures all at the end of the day. I don't think, and we'll start to know a lot more a week from now. It'll only take a week, 8 to 10 days at the most, and we'll start to know the direction of this team. I don't know that you're going to get the headliner, but I absolutely think there's going to be multiple trades. There has to be. You got to go. You got to get a pair of defensemen. You got to find Owen Power a partner. Rasmus Dahlin could play with you out there, right? And he'll be all right. And you would look all right playing with him. Owen Power, different story, man. You got to get him a steady, reliable partner. The Sabres have tried a bunch of dudes, and nothing has seemed to work. Byram could play with Dahlin, but that kind of might even decrease his value a little bit, because it's like, again, almost anybody could play with him. I'm with you there. I think Byram gets dealt. I think Peterka's 50-50, though. I think there's a 50-50 chance that he can get dealt. Put it this way. I hope, before we finish up with some Bills talk here for a few, I hope they shake something up. Do we agree with that? Like,
yeah. I
will be very disappointed, and I know a lot of fans will be too, if they just go status quo. Like, if they go get a 1-year, $4 million Jason Zucker type, and I don't like shitting on Jason Zucker, man. Hell, he was one of the better players on the team this year. But if you go get that type of mid-30s guy in a 1-year deal for $4, maybe $5 million, and a defenseman on a 2-year contract for $4 million per, or something like that, you're going to leave an incredibly angry fan base that don't want to buy tickets,
Yeah.
man. I mean, it's tough. It is tough right now. You're seeing these ads on Twitter selling 10-game packs. I'm like, I don't know, man.
I mean, here's the thing. And this is the last thing I'll say on the Sabres. So I'll give you one player to watch that I truly think, because it just came out today. I don't think I can't remember who it was. It was either Johnston or Friedman, but it seems like they're saying Ekblad is not returning to Florida. I could see them trying to bring in somebody like him to play with Owen Power, and be his partner. That's the last thing I got for you on the Sabres.
What kind of cost does something like that come? Because again, Ekblad is not like the Sabres would be the one team in the NHL that would have some interest in him, and you are up against the 8 ball anytime you have a market. If there's a player with a market, Buffalo, like we talked about this, man, you better be prepared to pay. Is Terry Bagula prepared to give a guy $2 million, $2.5 million more than he would go get if he signed with the Rangers or Toronto or like I said, Dallas or a team like that?
Well, we do know that they did offer Stamkos $12 million. And he signed for 8. So we know that part of the ability is there, and the want is there. It's just whether these guys are, and that's one of the things I was saying all offseason so far is I don't care if Mitch Marner chooses LA or Vegas or Dallas or Florida or wherever he goes. I just want the Sabres to be in it. Like, and to hear them be like one of the last few names, that they're still in it. And just to say you're trying. Right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't come to, like, yes, they're not going to choose you, but you're at least trying. You're at least putting your best foot forward to try and make this team better. And I can sit here and say, okay, cool. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that. But if you're literally just sitting on your hands and doing nothing, like, you need to be gone.
I agree with you 100%, dude. And this is where I almost, on a human level at least, I absolutely feel a little bit for Kevin Adams. And I'll explain what I'm talking about. Like we'll say with Brandon Beane, if they're making a play, let's say they're in on Devontae Adams and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, Brandon Beane don't need to talk about that shit. He don't need to. This is a good team. They're a good organization. He doesn't have to explain himself. Oh, this guy doesn't want to come here, this and that. Kevin Adams, it's like almost like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Generally speaking, I don't need my GM talking about players that they can't get. We tried. We couldn't get them. In the case of the Sabres, it's like, well, if he says that, they want player X, they want Tavares, all right, and they try to get, and they can't. Kevin Adams goes out, it sounds like he's whining. Well, we're trying. We can't get nobody. You know what I mean? Right. That gets him ridiculed. But then again, if they don't get a Tavares and he doesn't say that they're trying to go out and get somebody like that, then it's like, well, this team doesn't give a shit. They're not even trying. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like Kevin Adams is in a complete damned if you do, damned if you don't situation right now.
Right. It's that double-edged sword where, did I do enough to make my hockey team better, but also did I do enough to allow the fan base to, be ecstatic about having to come in and, the ability to purchase tickets, because, you have to, as the Buffalo Sabres, you've been in a playoff drought for 14 years. So that has to be part of it now too, is it can't just be, oh, we're trying to make the playoffs. Yes, that should be your end goal as a general manager, but also because you have no hockey ops, you have no, anybody really running the Sabres anymore other than Kevin Adams. He's got to think about, did I do enough to put fans in the seats so I keep my job next year as well?
Yeah, look, it's the thing with the Sabres is when you have a drought that has lasted as long as it has with Buffalo, and I've heard people say, who cares? It's over with. It's done with. It doesn't mean anything. This is a new year. Everyone's 0-0. Not really, because when you have a drought that has lasted that long, you lose grace from the fans. You lose the benefit of the doubt from the fans. Like you got to earn the trust from the fans. Now, you got to go out. You have to win. That's the only way you're getting the fans back. The good faith is gone with the Buffalo Sabres because it's been so long. And Kevin Adams is going into his 6th year now as GM, never had made the playoffs. There's no good faith there left with the
Well,
Sabres.
and that's the thing, like with the Bills, if they go out next year and have an off season,
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be like, oh, okay, they had an off season. Yes, it sucks. Oh gosh, we got to wait another year. But with the Sabres, Kevin Adams had that coming in. He went out and signed Taylor Hall, went out and traded for Eric Stahl, went out in that COVID year and did whatever he could to potentially get over that hump and get them right into the playoffs and be that, I'm going to break the drought right now. Okay, cool. Traded the players and everything. We gave them that extra year, and then they came back and they missed the playoffs by 1 point. So it's like, okay, let's give them another year. Oh, now they're injured. A lot of their guys are injured. Okay, we'll give them one more year. Last year should have been the year that it was like, it's do or die, urgency. It's either playoffs or bust. And whatever happened, like, he must be a real good salesman because, he's selling something to Terry Pagula that I don't know.
It's ironic you said that because my last thought in my mind was actually the opposite of what you just said. However, you are right about the Pagula part. He must be an excellent salesperson to Terry. I think more than anything, he's just the classic yes man that Terry has wanted all along. I've said this joke on the show before. I'll say it again. The reason why Kevin Adams is still GM right now is because Kevin Adams will say, my favorite color is blue. Terry will say, nah, your favorite color is green. And Kevin's going to be like, you know what? My favorite color is green, Terry. You are right. That's how I feel about Kevin Adams. And in terms of being a salesman, I think my biggest beef with him right now at this point is I don't know that he might be a good hockey guy. I think he's made reasonably good hockey moves as a whole during his tenure. The problem is the things that he complains about, the palm trees, the taxes, getting people to want to come here. Part of your job when you're a general manager, whether it's the general manager of an NHL team or whether you're the general manager of a coffee shop, you got to sell people, man. You got to go out. You got to convince player X, waive your no trade. Here's why you should come to Buffalo. Or player Z, you're a free agent. You want a 3-year deal? Here's why you should be a Buffalo Sabre. You got to be able to sell. And I just think there's a lack of respect maybe with players and other GMs and stuff around the league right now with Kevin Adams. In part maybe because of what Matthew Fairburn wrote a couple weeks ago at The Athletic, that he didn't really pay his dues to become GM. And I think there might be a little bit of a lack of respect for that. Maybe
I would agree, and I would agree with that very, very much. But I also think that's why Yarmo was brought in, is not only to give credibility, and I'll be honest with you, this is only from myself personally. Again, this may be a hot take, but I truly think no matter what happens with the Sabres this year, I still think Kevin Adams is here. Now, it's not going to be in a general manager role. I think he moves up. I think Yarmo takes the general manager spot no matter what, and I think Lindy moves up into the out of the coaching role, and Seth Appert takes over for him. And I truly think just from writing on the wall, I feel like that's what's going to happen either way, whether they make the playoffs or not this year.
I will reserve judgment on that for 7 months, and I'll circle that as it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't want it to happen. I'm just saying, like, that's the way that I feel, because Kevin Adams is that yes man. He's the guy that, like you said, my favorite color is blue. No, it's green. Okay. My favorite color is green. I truly think that's how Kevin Adams is, and I think that Pagula wants somebody underneath of him that's going to be able to, be yes, Terry. So
let's look, dude. I don't talk about the Sabres often, but when I get going with them, I could talk about them forever. And look, man, it bears repeating. This is a big week. A big week is looming for the Buffalo Sabres, and we will find out.
Most important week in their history.
Their history.
Their history.
I would say. Wow, you're a hot take machine tonight, man. I fire it up, dude. I like it. I certainly agree that it's the most important week in this regime of the Buffalo Sabres, this iteration of the Buffalo Sabres, for sure. If this team looks mostly the same on July 3rd, I think you should mostly expect the same results going forward. It's just the way it's going to be. I still say, though, at the end of the day, it's a couple moderate moves, and they're banking on, like I told you earlier, catching lightning in a bottle and all the things that could go right for a team to be good. they're going to bank on them to happen. One team that does not need to have a bunch of factors go good for them to be a competitive, contending team, of course, is the Buffalo Bills. So use our last few minutes here to talk about that. Let me ask you a real quick question, too, because I'm still getting to know you a little bit on a personal level, Matt. Are you more of a Sabres guy or a Bills guy, or is it kind of 50-50 down the middle? I kind of get a sense you're a little more of a Sabres guy, but I could easily be wrong. Like I said, I'm just getting to know you a little bit here.
I actually am a bigger Bills fan
Okay.
than I am a Sabres fan, but I'm a bigger NHL fan than I am a football fan.
Okay,
If
that makes sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, sir. All right, well, training camp is coming July 23rd to Rochester, of course. Every year at training camp, and of course, it's going to be, magnified this year because HBO Hard Knocks is going to be on hand. I can't wait to kind of see how that plays out. I don't think the Bills love it, per se. We'll see how much they fight the access that HBO is going to get. We'll see how guarded certain players and coaches are when HBO is there. I got a really strong feeling that Josh Allen is going to be incredibly heavily guarded during, as he should be, man. All right, the guy's already big enough anyway. That stuff aside, what I'm trying to get at here is there's always interesting, even without HBO being there, there's always storylines that people are into, the reasons why they want to either whether they go to camp in person or whether they want to at least look at the highlights and, look at Twitter clips and listen to podcasts and stuff like that, following along at training camp. As we approach now a couple of weeks away, what are one or two things that when we get there that you're going to be kind of locked in on the most, like things that are going to be interesting to you revolving around the Bills in this year's training camp?
Honestly, the main thing that I'm going to be looking at is the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
Because I want to see how things kind of unfold. I personally think that Elijah Moore could be as high as a wide receiver 3. I think he could be as low as not being on this team. But I do think that I think he finds a spot on this team. We talk about it all the time. Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco coming off his parents' couch, Mike White. Yes, he's here in Buffalo, but those are the quarterbacks that Elijah Moore has had throwing to him. And Deshaun Watson, a guy that, was basically injured and then took the year off and then came back to not being Deshaun Watson anymore. So it's tough to sit here and say what's going to happen within the wide receiver room. We do know that Keon Coleman's probably going to be one of the top 3 guys. We know that Khalil Shakir is probably your wide receiver 1 next year, as he should be. And also too, as far as I don't want to say slander, but a lot of people talking down on Khalil Shakir. Go do me a favor and go look at Diggs' numbers when he was with the Bills compared to Khalil Shakir's numbers with the Bills. They're very, very close. They're very, very close. And he's actually about the same size. So we want to sit here and call him a slot receiver and this, that, and why is he just that? So I truly think that he can be a wide receiver 1 on this team. I think he could be a wide receiver 1 in most places in the NFL. But I'm very excited to see what Curtis Samuel can do with a non-injured foot, non-injured toe. I can tell you from personal experience, turf toe is not something to be fun. It's not a fun thing. It's not a fun thing to deal with. It hurts. You could just be mowing the lawn and step wrong and it hurts. So I'm very excited to see what the wide receiver room shakes out to be. I personally have the 5 receivers. I think they're already set. I think it's Shakir. I think it's Coleman. I think it's Elijah Moore. I think it's
Palmer,
and then Curtis Samuel.
Well, I'm with you in terms of probably the thing I'll be watching the most is also the wide receiver room. I would say that I think there's a specific battle for a wide receiver 4 right now between Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel. I think and you're not wrong about Khalil Shakir. I want to be clear about that too. I don't really think this team has a number 1. And I also, if you're not the Bengals, if you're not the Vikings or a handful of other teams, I don't think most teams really have a wide receiver 1. I think Shakir, Coleman, and Joshua Palmer, And who I like Joshua Palmer a lot, man. I was pounding the table for him before free agency started. I think he is going to be a really good fit for the Buffalo Bills. I think he will give you more, potentially significantly more than what Amari Cooper gave the Bills last year when he came here midseason. But anyway, if those are your three guys in whatever order you want to put them in, wide receiver 4 carries weight because the winner is going to have a role in the offense. The winner is going to dress. The loser, wide receiver 5 on this team, probably doesn't play. They probably are on a tracksuit on the sideline during football games. Now, I want to be clear, because originally my first thought was, let's say Moore wins the job. Why not cut Curtis Samuel? Well, it doesn't make any financial sense to cut him, so that's not going to happen. If you could trade him, you could open up like $7 million of cap space. I don't know. But I also, the way these receivers get hurt, I want a guy like that, even if he's not going to dress right away, if it's Samuel or if it's Moore, one of those guys as insurance, because ultimately you're going to get a receiver hurt. But anyway, my thing is this. You don't dress 5 receivers on game day who don't play special teams. Keon, Josh, Shakir, they ain't playing special teams. Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, they are not special teams players. If you carry that 6th receiver, it's going to be a guy like a Shavers or a Virgil or maybe someone who's not even on this roster right now, somebody who could give you special teams help, especially with new rules this year with the kickoff. There'll be more returns, so that matters. But I think more to your point, shitty quarterbacks in front of them. But you know what, Matt? A year ago, 15 months ago, what were we doing about Curtis Samuel? Saying the same exact thing. He played with the Redskins, bummy-ass quarterbacks, and Carolina before that, kind of the same deal. He hurt his toe, didn't have a good year, came out a little bit at the end. I think it's a wide open battle. To your point, Moore could be on this team. He could be have a role, or he could be cut.
And I agree with you. I really truly do. To that point, that Curtis Samuel didn't have anything. We were saying the same thing last year, but I think that it's a little bit more serious with Elijah Moore. Also, too, you brought up with special teams. Elijah Moore said, "I would get back there and return kicks." That's another thing that he has going for him. Is he said, "I would gladly hop back there and return kicks, especially with it being basically just a run play now." So if he can use his 4.35 speed and get through there, I mean that can kind of free up somewhere else that doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it's certainly an extra path for him potentially making the team, but they got to have a receiver, at least one guy who could be a gunner, somebody who could cover kicks. Yep. And it's none of those guys. And then the other thing we'll hit on real quick, then we're going to get out of here. We'll save some meat. I'm sure I'll have you back on again. Camp, like I said, camp's still a couple of weeks away, but Max Harrison, is he going to be ready to wrestle that number 2 cornerback job away from Trey White? Because I do think Trey White will go into camp, knowing Sean McDermott. I think Trey will be the starter to begin, and it will be when and if Max Harrison could take the job away. So watching Max Harrison at camp, how he looks, not overreacting too much if he doesn't pick up everything right away, not saying that the dude after 6 practices is the next Kyer Elam because he looks like shit for a practice or two. That's something I'm going to be really locked in on. Trey White versus Max Harrison.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you on that because I thought when we signed Trey White that he is going to instantly be the CB2 on this team, obviously behind CB1, Christian Benford. But I thought that Max Harrison may have a chance at some point during the season to take that job away from Trey. But the more and more I think about it is it might not be the worst thing to have those 3 guys on the field at the same time against, some of these other teams like the Bengals or the I'm trying to think who else we play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Steelers now that they have they do have some good weapons there. So I mean we'll definitely see what happens, but I that's going to be a fun bet. That's going to be more fun I think than the wide receiver room. I think that's going to be a fun battle because obviously Trey's going to be on this team. Like there's no cutting Trey White.
I'll tell you, like I said, Samuel or Moore, one of them got to play bad to not make this team.
Right.
Somebody's going to win that job, and the other person's going to be I got to wait my turn. But I think both of them make the team. When it comes to cornerback and the defensive backs, generally speaking, I think this is the one position on this football team where jobs will be competitively on the line. Trey White could start week 1. Trey White could get cut. Trey White has no special teams value, by the way. So if Trey White's not starting, Trey White's not dressing. And if he has a bad, rough summer, Trey White might not even be on this football team. Who knows? But not even just him. Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram, DeMar Hamlin potentially. Some of these guys, the Bills drafted a couple rookie defensive backs who I think are going to make this team. So who's going to get pushed out? It's going to be a lot of fun to cover.
Love Dorian Strong. Loved him at Virginia Tech. Love his game.
Yeah, he will be on this team. He will have the role. I love Jamarcus Ingram. Such a feel-good story. UB kid, man. I love him. He's been here for a couple of years. I hope he can catch on another team and he has a nice career in the NFL. I think Dorian Strong takes that job. I think he does what Jamarcus Ingram does. I think Jordan Hancock does what Cam Lewis does. So, that could be that. Or if Jordan Hancock goes to safety, maybe that pushes Derek Forrest or DeMar Hamlin out. A lot of moving parts when it comes to the defensive secondary. So that'll definitely be something to keep our eyes on. And we will. On that note, let's wrap this one up. Guys, make sure you're following Matt on Twitter at Matt Diegert. Go to @DoChampions too for all the podcast information. Him, Student Body Right, man, he do a really good job. And like I said, I love the live shows. I'm a live show guy. I mean, it's cool and relaxing to be in studio like this and stuff, but I still love getting out and doing the live show. Seeing you guys doing it Sunday kind of got my juices flowing too. So I can't wait to get back and do some live shows. Really good guests that you guys have too. Thanks a lot, buddy. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see it. Sunny Reds can't wait to get some of their wings and that coal-fired pizza. It's so good.
It is so good. You see that, Justin? Another shout out for you there at Sunny Reds here at the end of the show. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. I'll be back. Brand new episode. Matt Warren from SB Nation joins me tomorrow.